Hello, everybody. Can everybody please take your seats so we can get started on time?
Especially Fred Herring.
Yes.
Sit down, please.
Yeah, well, that's right. Yeah, call them out. Let me see. Let me put my glasses on.
Brother Savoy is in the house.
Can somebody tell the people outside to come on in? We're gonna get started on this meeting. We got a pretty
Look at my
cool agenda. All right. I promise we'll have networking time at the end, I think. I promise that part, right? Okay, can we get the doors, get people in? All right. I'm going to get started. So thank you again to this community for joining us for the West Las Vegas Library Community Meeting. This is an opportunity where you will have where you will be able to engage, as you can see, as the boards outside, and give your input, as well as later on the agenda, you'll have an opportunity to do that as well. I just want to, when people step up to the microphone, I want to remind you that this meeting is definitely about the library district, and a proposed library. We have all of the people here who will give you a fabulous presentation. And then after the presentation, we will give you another opportunity to make comments on that presentation. And I hate to get like governmental way, but I was in the Air Force, so I'm just gonna say this. Let's stick to what we want to do with this proposed library. We have a lot of people here who are very interested. I love the fact that we are engaged, but let's stick to what do we want to see, and how do we feel about the presentation if we could, because I would, I'd love to get everybody's input and engaged. So with that, I'm just going to point to the agenda real quick. This is kind of how our agenda is going to go. We do the introductions. We have different people here. And I'll just tell you who's here right now. We have the Clark County District. We have Kelvin Watson and John Vino. We have Councilman Creer from the city of Las Vegas, Clay T. White, the UNLV historian, and the architects of this wonderful facility with KME Architects, Melvin Green and Emmanuel Arguelles. I say it right, Emmanuel, sorry. So with that, we're going to start off with a little bit of welcome and introductions from the left all the way around, and just state your name and who you are. And I think we have individual presentations after that.
All right, thank you, Shondell. My name's Leo Segura, Library Operations Director from the Las Vegas Clark County Library District.
I'm Keith Rogers. I'm one of the board members and representing the interests of the trustees.
I'm Kelvin Watson. I'm the Executive Director of the Las Vegas Clark County Library District.
My name is John Vino, General Services Director and Project Manager for the new library.
I'm Emmanuel Arguelles, Principal at KME Architects.
My name is Mel Green, Principal at KME Architects.
I'm Clay T. White. I'm the Director of the Oral History Research Center at UNLV.
Thank you. I'm Cedric Creer. I'm a councilman for an area of Las Vegas called Ward 5. Dig it.
Awesome. So with that, I'm going to give Ms. Clay T. White an opportunity to talk about the history of West Las Vegas.
So that's an old picture you're looking at. So I just want to give you just a very short overview of the history that we all know, sometimes we forget. The first African-American, Black American here in the Valley was John Howell, came in the 1870s. So that's how long African-Americans have been right here, walking on this ground, owning property in this area. We know that all of the property belonged to Native Americans, but he was the first African-American person who actually had a deed to property, and it was part of the Springs Preserve. We called it the Springs Ranch at the time. He migrated here from North Carolina, a little place called Tarboro, North Carolina, 35 miles from where I grew up. So he probably walked most of the way across the country to get here. with probably a wagon train here or there. We don't know the exact history, but we know that he is in the Legacy Park and that we will be interviewing members of his family in the next few months. I'm so excited. The history starts with the, yes, the history.
Go ahead.
So the history of the city, as you know, 1905 starts because the railroad comes through here. The Las Vegas, no, the Los Angeles, San Pedro, Salt Lake Railroad needed a place in between Southern California and Salt Lake City to stop for water, ice, and repairs. And they decided that that place was going to be right here in Las Vegas. So a city gets started. The person who surveys the property for the railroad is J.T. McWilliams. He does a survey for the woman who sells the property to the railroad, Helen J. Stewart. And he finds 80 acres of land that has not been claimed. He buys that and he lays out a town site in 1904 as he's doing the survey. That property is west of the railroad tracks. He thinks that he has downtown. But in 1905, when the owners of the railroad come through, they actually say, oh no, downtown is going to be east of the tracks. So that's what happens. So most of the people who have purchased property where we are right now, here on the west side, decide that they, oh no, they want their property and their home to be downtown. So they buy lots doing that sale in May of 1905. And they take their property over there and they start their businesses there, start their businesses over again. Block 17 of downtown is set aside for African Americans. The city is controlled by the railroad at that time. Downtown looks like this. There is a person who controls the city for the railroad, and that person declares that Block 17 becomes the Black neighborhood. And that's what happens almost. It's sort of in and around Block 17 where African Americans settle. That's where they build their homes and their businesses. Block 17 looks like this today. So in 1930s, 31, when we get the mandate that the country is going to put the first federal building here, it is going to be a post office downstairs, a courthouse upstairs, they began to move African Americans out of downtown. It is the same time as the Hoover Dam, and whites are moving out of the heart of downtown as well. They are moving eastward and ask African Americans to move to the west side, that abandoned area that J.T. McWilliams founded in 1904. 1925, we have the Ku Klux Klan that makes a revival across country, not just here in Las Vegas, but across the country this time, not just in the South. The Ku Klux Klan says that this time it's not just African Americans, but Catholics and Jews and immigrants that they are also protesting against. The NAACP gets started here in 1928. Very good year. It is also the year that the Hoover Dam is mandated by the federal government, that there will be jobs. And in 1929, we have the beginning of the Great Depression. So people began to look for jobs. 1928, we know that there are going to be jobs here. So people began to move in great numbers to this area of the country, Blacks and whites. They began to set up tents and they look for places where there are jobs across the country. They know that there are going to be jobs here. This is where they settle. We know that those jobs are because of the New Deal. And we know that those jobs don't go to African Americans in the great numbers that they should. Out of the 20,000 people who worked on the Hoover Dam for that 4.5-year period, 44 of those were Black people. And we know this because reporters came here from all over the country, but especially from Southern California, to report on what was going on here in Las Vegas. We have reporters like Langston Hughes. We didn't know that after the Harlem Renaissance, that he comes west to do reporting. And I'll see if that's my last. But the greatest migration of African Americans, as most of you know, is that World War II migration. And that's when Basic Magnesium Incorporated is founded. Basic Magnesium is that company that processes the ore used to build all the war materials for World War II. Germany already has all of that technology. We get in the war late. We don't have the technology. The federal government needs a place where that plant can be constructed. And they decide in that area that we call Henderson today, that basic town site. It's built there because the ore is not that far away in Gaps, can come in by railroad, and there's plenty of water because of the Hoover Dam. So that is the place where Basic Magnesium begins. And that migration of people that you know from Fordyce, Arkansas, Tallulah, Louisiana, and all of those places in Mississippi start at this time. And that's how the population begins to grow. But it was not just the migration of blue-collar workers. All workers started to migrate here at the time. We have the first African-American school teacher, Mabel Hogarth. We have a person who works as a recreational director at Basic Magnesium in the housing that has been set aside for African Americans, Carver Park. So I could go on and on and on and talk about this history, but I just want to show you some of the places that African Americans lived here in the area. On 8th Street, it looked like that. These are some of the places. And I always compare it with housing at the time in the white community. I compare it because I want you to see what systemic racism looks like. We didn't have the jobs in the same way that white people had the jobs. We didn't have the same kinds of financing for houses. Not even the FHA and the VA were designed for African Americans. So, but in the mid-1950s, we began to grow anyway. We began to progress anyway. So I could talk about places like Berkeley Square, designed by a Black architect. I can talk about the Moulin Rouge, the first integrated hotel casino that can rival any of those on the Las Vegas Strip at the time. But I just want you to know that we are brilliant. Our history proves that there is systemic racism, unfairness, unkindness, and injustice, but yet we have been able to do anything we set our minds to. We have stars in every field: architecture, politics, education, finance, and I can just go on and on and on. I want you to know that my high school library probably could cover this back wall of the stage. That was my entire library at my high school. And then I went away to an HBCU, a historically Black college or university in North Carolina, where I'm from. And there was an entire building that was a library. I could not believe it. I was lost for a long time. We right now have the opportunity to have the library of the future. UNLV's library is not going to compare with this one. Think about that. UNLV's makerspace. When I could show you what we make in our makerspace and what you make right here in your makerspace, you would be amazed at what we have here in our community. Libraries are the future. They level the playing field, and it ensures that we can create a world that works ideally for all of us, and that's what we want.
Thank you. Yeah, give her a round of applause. I always learn something new with her around. I don't know. It's something else, huh? And I think the next speaker that I have on my slide is actually Councilman Creer to talk about the future of West Las Vegas and some of the things that is proposed in his ward.
Thank you very much, Shondell. And thank you, Ms. Clay T. White. I tell you, as Shondell said, I learn so much more every time I'm with her. And it is great to learn so much more every time about my community, the community that I grew up in. And so thank you. And I think your words are very succinct. And it really shows you the progress that our community has made in a relatively short period of time. And we're continuing to make progress in our community. If you look at the 100 Plan in Action, which we have, which was developed with the community over a 2-3 year period, if you look at the development that has taken place thus far and the development that is slated to take place, we are moving at what I call government lightning speed. And it's great because for so many years, we have not seen a lot of progress taking place in our community. The conversation has not been about our community. I was recently at a Las Vegas Global Economic breakfast, which their task is to move development throughout the city and throughout the region. Michael Brown from the Governor's Office of Economic Development was there. I've been to those meetings plenty of times. Many of us have been to those breakfasts many times in meetings, and never once had I ever heard the mention of the historic West Side. But in that particular meeting, it was mentioned twice about the development that is being made and where we're going with the 100 Plan in Action. A new library coincides with just that. We are in action mode. We are working to bring more resources into our community. We are working to beautify our community. And this is just one more step towards that. And it's indicative of the fact that the last meeting we had, we were in the only meeting space at the current library, and whoever was there, you can see how packed it was. And we're here today. That will give you a good indication of why we need a new library. The library that is there now has served its purpose. I have spent many a time there and took my kids there when they were growing up and went to a number of readings there and use it as a resource. I always had a library card, but it has served its purpose. It's just that there is a life to so many things. The ceilings are small, the rooms are small, it's not built towards the future. If you look at the beautiful library that was built on the east side of town, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. The library district did a fantastic job of building that facility. And it sparked, when I saw that, it sparked me to say, we need a new library in our community. I struck up conversations with members of the board for the library district. Those conversations were well received. Struck up conversations with former leadership of the board of the library district. They were well received. We have a new executive director who is here. We continue to bridge that conversation. It has been well received, spoken to members of the board. Again, it has been well received. And I think it's important to understand this, and you may not get it, but projects are cyclical when you're dealing with big, large agencies and government agencies. Usually they come around when it's sort of your time to come around. And to get everybody on the same page at one time is a monumental feat within itself. We are in that moment of time, and we cannot lose that momentum that is taking place. The library district is on board, hence we're here today. This is their meeting. We've had a number of meetings before. The foundation, which helps raise money, is on board. The city of Las Vegas is on board. And so this is our time. This is our moment in time to get a brand new facility. And it would round out our Enterprise Park where we're looking to put this library greatly. It would be between the post office and the Fresenius Healthcare. The city has some land within the Enterprise Park, and it would really round that out. You know, we just recently put in the Legacy Park that's there, and this would add a whole nother element beautification as well as an educational component within that enterprise park zone. And so I'm super, super, super excited about the opportunities. I think that, anytime you can build something in today's age, it's going to be beautiful. It's going to be nice. We've got the right team in place, the right architecture team in place to design something that is going to be very beneficial to the community. I believe that we'll get a number of sponsors to come on board. As another example, we had Switch Communications. I'm sure if you're familiar with Switch, they're the largest data warehousing facility in the world, I believe. And we wanted to do a Maker's Mark space, and they sponsored the space that we had, but the space was so small, right? Imagine what we can do and what Switch can do. They're a multi-billion-dollar company, what they can do with the new Maker's Mark space and the amount of resources we can put into that library that are going to benefit not only our youth, but also benefit everyone in our community. And so the time is now. I think this is great that we're having this conversation, looking for your input. We'll love to hear what you have to say, but I can't tell you enough how excited I am and to have the members of the foundation board that are here, members of the trustees board. I mean, there are other, Keith that represents our specific area on the board, but there are other members of the board of the library district that are here. I mean, that says a lot about where we are for them to be here to try to understand about building a library. So I want to thank you all for being here as well. I look forward to continued conversations and positive comments regarding, I say constructive comments regarding the building of our library. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Councilman. And I'm going to pass the agenda over to the Executive Director, Kelvin Watson. But I just want to tell you guys that when I first met Kelvin, I think he set me and Ken Evans up with the Urban Chamber. He took us over to that nice library over there and really talked about how he can integrate entrepreneurship, training, everything that we do at the Urban Chamber. Thanks to the city of Las Vegas, we've entered an agreement to purchase that building at the Urban Chamber, which is going to be right across the street. So it's right across the street right now from the FBI, but not far from this new proposed library. And all the ideas that the executive director, Mr. Watson, had were mind-blowing for us, because we always wanted to do these type of things. We as entrepreneurs and business owners, we want to impact our young people as well as those who are aspiring to open businesses and start businesses and grow businesses. And this facility will allow us. And I'm always excited to hear John's presentation, because every time I hear his, something new goes into that library. So we'll go with the executive director, Mr. Watson, Mr. Kelvin Watson. Thank you.
Thank you, Shondell. Thank you, Clay T. Thank you, Councilman. Thank you, everybody, for coming out tonight. I'll be brief so we can get right into the presentation, which is, I know that's why we all came out tonight. So what I'll say is that I've been the executive director of the library district since last February. And over the year that I've been here, we've really tried to invest as much as we could into this current facility. We expanded the computers, for example. We put in a new teen area. And basically, again, we always have to take away something when we wanted to add something into this building. So really quickly, what we're walking towards is a proposed library, expanding the library services to meet the needs of our community for the 21st century, providing more STEAM opportunities, workforce development, digital services, business and entrepreneurial incubator space. My story, and we all have one, but Shondell talked about the East Las Vegas Library. So when I came here for my interview in December of 2020, I visited 2 library locations outside of the one that I had the interview at, which was Sahara West, which is also a very nice library facility as well. But I went and visited the East Las Vegas Library first. So my wife and I, we go to the East Las Vegas Library. It's like, man, this is a great library. I've been in libraries for over 20 years. So I saw the podcasting, the DJ studio, the generational, the living room space. And then I came over to the West Las Vegas Library. And the first thing I thought of and saw was the opportunity for us to have a new library in what I consider my community. So this is my community. I serve, of course, all the libraries, but this is really my community. I probably spend more time here in West Las Vegas than I do in any of the other areas. And so I could see what Clay T talked about, systematic racism it looked like to me, right? This brand new building, and then I didn't even know where to park when I got here. I parked in the art center. I didn't know that wasn't the library's parking lot. But this is an opportunity. Again, we're going to hear it now. You're going to see it with John and Mel's presentation. So I'm just happy that you came out. I'm looking forward to your feedback, constructive feedback, and concerns. Remember, this is about the library, and we also have, I know, maybe some city issues, but let's talk to the library pieces. So I'll turn it over to John, who is the project manager, and then we'll get through this process.
Thanks everyone for being here. I know there's a lot of interest. I know there's a lot of concerns and there's a lot of questions, and I hope after you leave the meeting, we've answered a lot of your questions. I think I have the best assignment tonight because I get to talk about what a 21st century library, what a proposed library, and the benefits and impact we think it can have to the community. So tonight we're going to talk a little bit about the vision of what the new library might look like. For us, it's innovation and it's an opportunity for education. We're going to talk a little bit about the design objectives, the space objectives, what the building might look like. KME will talk about that. I know there's some concerns that we've heard about, the new location is located on the other side of Martin Luther King Boulevard, and how are we going to deal with traffic? And I can assure you we're looking at, we will have traffic studies done. There's a possibility of even a pedestrian bridge that will link the library. We're looking at all of those things. So we want to, talk to you about those things. And then we're going to identify, what future library services might look like with you. So for us, when we talk about a community library, it starts as a library as a community anchor. And we started here in this community back in 1973, back on D Street. And then back in 1989, we moved to this location, our current library. And we've been proud to serve members of the historic West Side for that time. We're a library that's, and especially the staff that works here, is just dedicated to community service. As a neighborhood branch, we've heard from our patrons that not only did they come to this branch as children, now they're bringing their children, they're bringing their grandchildren to this branch. It's been a long-time community branch. And we know maybe even more in this branch than a lot of our other branches, that we hear from our patrons that they have such a sense of ownership, a sense of pride, right? And I think that's why you're here. You want to know what's going on with your branch and what a new future library might look like. And that's what we want to give you. So we start a process, we talk about a community needs assessment. Are we as a district able to meet the needs of this community? And we look at it as a platform. Are we meeting the needs of the youth and education? Are we meeting the needs of families, health and wellness, civic and social and faith, local businesses? Are we working with our partners in government to give you guys the service that this community needs? And we look at that in a community needs assessment versus our vision, and the vision of the library district is that all people in Southern Nevada thrive and enjoy education, economic, and social well-being. So back in 2017, we started what we're calling it was to be for our facilities master plan. We did a needs assessment of not only this library, all our libraries. And we met with the community members at that time, and we found that in terms of community needs, that West Las Vegas had the highest community need for programs and services. We further found that in terms of community impact, opening a library in this community and keeping it open has a major impact on this community. If we, for any reason, ever had to close a library, the impact on this community would be ranked as #1 within our district. And it also has the branch with the highest renovation needs throughout our branch system. So that's where we are. We're in the needs assessment. We're at this very first stage where we're talking to the community. We're thinking, well, if we have this opportunity, what would we include? What would a new library have? Let me tell you what a 21st century library is not. It is not a library where the majority of library resources are books. Okay, it's not a library. You walk in and all you see is shelves after shelves after shelves of books. A new 21st century library is flexible spaces. It's a building to be enjoyed by the community. It's a building that's meant to be active and interactive. So noisy a little bit, right? No more of the librarian giving you the old shush when you're meeting with your friends. It's a place that creates opportunities for learning, for social connections, that dedicates more space for activities and interaction than books. Now, it doesn't mean we're not having books. We will have plenty of books. We have books that can be delivered within 24 hours. If anything, through this process, our collection has actually grown year after year, and there's actually more materials available through our patrons throughout the district. And you know, when you talk about a new 21st century library, you talk about the programming, which is based on 21st century skill sets. You know, we try to be, even the library is more interactive now. When we program for critical thinking and problem solving, creative and collaborative innovations. We teach visual literacy, media literacy, entrepreneurial literacy, and as well as global awareness. So, you know, the first thing we always get is, you know, that's great. We all want a 21st century library, right? So why can't we do it right here in this space? And unfortunately, if you look at this space, I think as the councilman mentioned, it's just limited, right? It's, you know, we would have to close this library for 2 years. And as we know, that would really have an impact on this community. Even if we were able to get a small space or do something temporary, it's really not going to have the impact that we need to have in this community. The available space, this is actually only on a little over 2 acres. There's not a lot of acres to build out in other directions. And as you may know, the parking here alone would really not qualify for us to redevelop this space. If we were to double or even triple the size of this library, we wouldn't be able to do it just based on parking alone. So, you know, when you look at all of that, we really feel a new facility is the most cost-effective and flexible solution to meet the future needs of the West Las Vegas community. You know, so now we get actually into the needs assessment, right? And it starts with our 21st century library core services. And we're here, we're talking about what is the vibe of a new library? Does it have study rooms, homework help centers, maker spaces, adult learning labs, you know, social services, event spaces, all the things that go into 21st century libraries. And if you look at this slide particularly, you'll see that everything that's in red and everything that's in orange, we're not capable of providing that service at this location. It's just too small. And as Director Watson mentioned, we've looked at that. There's a community needs assessment that we've started showed that this library needed more computers. It needed a teen zone, and we've built those. The problem is every time we build something, we have to take something away. There's just not enough room to keep adding. So every time we add, we have to take away, and that's just not a good scenario for success. So you start looking at what a 21st century library can be, and a lot of them are built around what's called an intergenerational living room, right? It's really the soul of that library. It's meant to reflect the community and culture. It's what we want out of a modern library. We want it to be friendly and welcoming. We want it to have comfortable seating. We want it to be available for workspace collaboration. We want it to be your sanctuary away from home. You know, it's not necessarily a quiet space where we build a quiet space. You know, we will have a quiet space. I mean, maybe you get enough activity at home and at work and you still need a place. Your sanctuary is a quiet place. We haven't forgotten that. You know, we envision furniture that's farm tables for collaborations, lounge seating. We're talking about bar seating, you know, round cafe tables. You know, it's where you go to meet people you know, people in the neighborhood. It's a neighborhood community library. And even at some of the libraries that we've been able to create this feel, you know, it has community meetups, it has cafe gatherings, it has entertainment events, cultural programming, health and wellness, performances, it has movies and music nights, you know. So if you haven't seen it, we have some activity boards that are outside. And what we're asking is your input, you know, on your dream library. So you're walking into that new proposed West Las Vegas library on opening day. What's your vision? What do you see? More windows, more Wi-Fi. It has more computers. It's friendly, you know? Like I said, maybe it has a quiet space. We want to know. So if you could take some time and just let us know on our activity boards. We also have a questionnaire. You're welcome to take that with you. It's a little more extensive. It has all the questions we would really love your input on to help us put together a program for a new library. Obviously, any type of 21st century library is going to be built around greater access to technology. We're about that now. The libraries have always been. So we certainly envision a state-of-the-art computer lab that you'll see there with access to not only laptops and the computers that you see here, but also iPads. You know, you can check out iPads at some of our locations. You can, you know, state-of-the-art printers, copiers, everything that goes into a state-of-the-art computer room. And the young people libraries. The library is very dedicated to early learning. You know, so we really focus on a children's computer area. I believe we have 15 at this location. We're certainly looking at 25 to 30 if we're able to expand that out and, you know, have the space to do so. Dedicated story time room, children's spaces, toddler areas, and certainly homework help. Again, we have a homework help here, but it's not really what we want. The district has always been very dedicated. It's actually one of our core values, limitless learning and the educational gap. So we work very hard on expanding pre-K services and strengthening support for our K through 12 students. So we work with UNLV and other avenues to have tutors at almost all of our locations to help kids after school. And, you know, we envision a whole suite dedicated to this with study rooms and reading nooks and everything that kids would need to prosper. Study rooms, one of our red tags here. You know, every library, one of our probably our most popular reserved items are our study rooms at different locations. We don't have any here available at this location, again, because of space requirements. We would certainly envision 5 to 6 study rooms in a new proposed library. And, you know, and they could be used for business incubators, conference rooms, podcast studios, student activities, family activities. Really an important aspect. We actually build, you know, almost a conference room style study room, which would have the capability of having 8 to 10 people. Obviously, Zoom meetings and WebExes are popular right now. You know, somebody that's just starting a new business, doesn't have his own conference room, doesn't have a place to meet and have a Zoom meeting. We have that space available with TVs and just state-of-the-art cameras. You know, that is something that a new 21st century library would have. Maker spaces. I think maybe the anchor of a 21st century modern library are going to be maker spaces. These are rooms that are dedicated and support STEAM programs such as science, technology, engineering, arts, math, for all ages. I mean, we have one here. It's small, and I believe it's only for children. Our true maker spaces are for all ages. One of our most popular dedicated maker spaces is probably our multimedia maker space, and that's dedicated to everything from having your own recording studio to being able to then edit that. It has green screens. We have DJ studios, podcasting studios, but makerspace is a lot more than that. And then we envision maybe up to 3 makerspaces at this location. You know, with 3D printers, you can learn about robotics, you can learn about, you know, arts and crafts if you're into knitting, woodworking, sewing, even educational labs where maybe you want to learn about gardening or you want to learn about coding. You know, it's all about flexibility of a modern library is really about what this is. You know, it's said it's where our kids and our patrons stop asking for answers and they actually search for answers. It gives them that ability, you know, to have access to new technology. It's probably one of the most important things I think we could do. Again, we have a maker, an activity board. So if you could take the time and look at that, you know, and we ask you what you think the most important lab might be. And if we don't have one down, certainly please take the time, let us know what kind of programming that you might be interested in seeing in a makerspace. We list 4, and these are, you know, we list the multimedia lab I mentioned, but we have arts and craft labs, very popular throughout the district. Innovation labs where we introduce kids to laser cutters and robotics, and we get into virtual reality, and even coding. So if you could take your time and let us know what you think about our maker spaces, that'd be great. Adult literacy and programming is another key initiative. We would envision a full suite dedicated to this at a new 21st century library. Again, having its 2 dedicated classrooms with the computer lab, partner sharing spaces for everything from potentially, Southern Nevada Health District to the Legal Aid Society, whatever the community would need. It would give us the ability to give them space to work to benefit the community. So an adult learning lab helps expands that. It offers career paths to programming and mentoring. A lot of our literacy programs help get GEDs. We help with work skills. We teach classes on English as a second language. It helps with job support. It has access to social workers. And a lot of what we try to do is help small businesses. One of the things we're really interested in doing at this location, probably the first location we would do this at, is create a full business incubator. We all know a lot of businesses get started where in the kitchen, maybe in the garage, so you don't have access to everything you need to help your business grow. We're envisioning up to a couple of offices that can be rented or maybe just checked out. We're a library, check them out on your library card, use those offices for a day, use those offices, for a week. Libraries are often looked at as great incubators because we already have a lot of the stuff a new business would need. The computers, internet access, workspace, access to technology, conference rooms we talked about. We certainly have all the reference manuals you might need. We have professional guidance, and we certainly have workforce training through our partnerships. Really excited about this as a new concept that we could bring forward to the community. We have an activity board dedicated to this. If you could let us know what you think, if you were starting a business, what would you think the library would be helpful to you for the library to offer? Is it educational services, entrepreneurial classes? Is it being able to rent an office? Would it be our conference rooms? We appreciate the input. Another thing I'd be really excited about offering this community is our event spaces, right? So we're going to have an active ongoing theater right here. We think we can provide an event center for the community. Typically, these are 3,500 square feet. They can fit up to 300 people. They're dividable. They have catering kitchens. They have green rooms. They're available after hours. This is something the community actually can rent for themselves, for banquets, for any event that they're having. We really feel that an event center of this size, really our event centers, this would only be the third one we would build out at a branch. They're really some of our busiest spaces that we have within the library, and they're flexible. They have state-of-the-art audio. They have stages. They have the ability. We think they appeal across all generations. This is just one of our event centers which was mentioned a little earlier, our East Las Vegas Library. It's been busy since the day we opened there, and it's been used for educational lectures, preschool activities, certainly all sorts of community events, book sales and public meetings. Certainly a very busy gathering space for movie nights. We do talent shows. We have banquets and luncheons. During the pandemic, when the schools closed, we hosted the Vegas Strong Academy. It's where kids went to participate in school when they couldn't do it from home. We used our event centers for that. And certainly it has multimedia and technology classes. Google recently rented our East Las Vegas location to advanced training. And cooking classes is another great opportunity within that space. Just you can see here, we have a nutritional classes in the morning, and we have cultural events going on later that evening with the stage and a band and a full event. We have the event space activity boards. This is another one kind of important. We'd love to hear your input on what you think would be important as we developed an event space for this location. Our galleries, of course, we would have a full gallery at a new East Las Vegas location, West Las Vegas location. This is actually a picture of our Joe Louis event that we have right here in the West Las Vegas Library. So we would continue to have a gallery service and maybe even expand our exhibit potentials out at a new West Las Vegas Library. One of the other things that really give us a step on is closing the digital divide. One of our key criteria here at the Library District. Technology gives the average person endless amounts of information. So we would again be looking at more access to the internet, expanding our Wi-Fi, charging stations, powered furniture. So that lounging furniture, that welcoming furniture, you could sit. Everybody has some type of device they need to charge. We want to do advanced robotics. We want to expand our virtual reality classes. We want to expand our education into those areas and provide the editing software, not only to record your music and your videos if you need to, but to give the editing software that's needed for that. And these again are actual pictures of some of our existing libraries and where we've been able to introduce that type of technology. And one of the things that's important is, the best libraries don't stop at the front door. So we want to do something on the outside. We know outside, it encourages healthy lifestyle. So we do have an activity board we'd love your input on. Would you be interested in community gardens, learning gardens, outdoor maker spaces? Is it more important to have the opportunity for environmental education outside? Or should we do it park-like, where you just have a place to sit and enjoy and be quiet in quiet time, And we have that activity board out there as well. We'd love your input on that. And with that, I'll hand it over to KME, who will talk a little more specific about the themes and what an actual library might look like.
Thanks, John, for the excellent presentation. My name is Mel Green, one of the principals at KME Architects.
I'm Emmanuel Arguelles, a principal at KME Architects, along with Mel. And before Mel gets into his presentation here, I just want to say how excited we are to be a part of this and to have the involvement of the community as well. So go ahead and take it away, Mel.
Thanks so much. KME Architects was established in 2009. Prior to that, I established Mel Green Architect back in 1995. So I've been doing quite a bit of work in the community. We've done some very prestigious projects here along with other architecture firms. Most recently, the Las Vegas Convention Center, which is an iconic building, 1.4 million square foot, $850 million. And we are lucky to work on phase 2, which is a $500 million project. So what I wanted to talk about is like our commitment. I live downtown. I shop in this community. I eat in this community. And a lot of you know me. We've done many projects here, educational projects, economic development projects. So I just want to kind of list some of the projects we've worked on. We've worked on Rainbow Dreams Academy for Diane Pollard, Wendell P. Williams Elementary School. And I'd like to point out that elementary school is the first 2-story elementary school in Las Vegas. So the West Side should be proud of that. We've worked on the Booker Elementary School, the historic West Side School, and most recently the splash pad that we're doing in Pearson Park. So as KME Architects, because of our engagement in community, we do a lot of pro bono projects. And I feel it's so important that we be the tools for a lot of our community members who have vision, who can't afford to provide schematic designs for a project. So we've worked with them coming up with concepts and ideas, mainly the Legacy Theater for Tori Russell. We did some work for Sherman Rutledge on the National Association of Black Veterans project. Obviously, everyone knows Gwen Walker, and we work with her on the Walker African American Museum and some other project. The last project we did pro bono was for Diane Parlett, which was a middle school. So let's talk a little bit about the proposed property. It is 5.25 acres in Enterprise Park. The proposed building is roughly 35 to 38,000 square feet. Right now, the current building is 16,000 square feet. And we're looking to do either a 1 or 2-story facility with about 135 dedicated parking spaces. Someone mentioned about utilizing the parking spaces here with some of the other functions like the basketball court, the art center. So we'll have 135 dedicated parking spaces for the new proposed library itself. Sustainability to us is very important. We have to save the resources of this earth for our future generation. So what we would always do in a project is do a site analysis. We would understand where the prevailing winds are coming from, the north and south exposure, and provide the building based on sustainability, based on the requirements for LEED as well as Green Globe. So we're going to get this project certified. This particular slide shows the actual proximity of the new school to the existing school. We were probably about 0.62 miles, which is roughly about a 10-minute walk. We only lost one school, which is Fitzgerald, but we gained 3 schools. And at that time, I'll have Leo talk a little bit about the schools that were gained.
Thanks, Mel. The Fitzgerald School is actually in North Las Vegas, so it's served by the North Las Vegas Library. We do, however, do events over there and support the school when they ask us to support the school. It just means that we're going to notify the North Las Vegas Library District and invite them to come to the programming with us. By moving the library, we're actually picking up 3 schools in that 1-mile radius that we already serve, and we're going to continue to serve all the schools that we currently serve now.
Thanks. So what about the proximity of other facilities within that area? So within a 1/4 mile, we have a lot of buildings that would benefit the library itself. We have the Urban Chamber building, which is providing incubator and workforce resources. We have Legacy Park, which is very important. We're going to see how we can integrate part of that into our north entrance off Mount Moriah. We have the post office, which is just south of the site. And just think of this as an entrepreneur, you can design something in a makerspace. You have the ability to ship that out from the post office, or go to the Urban Chamber and ask for assistance and determine how to develop that product. So we're excited that the Enterprise Park location is going to be a community location for the library itself. Some of the themes of the proposed library includes opportunities for education, flexibility, technology, workforce assistance. For us, the opportunity for education, we have access to for all ages, engaging in all of the learning connectivity items that's required for, say, digital platforms, social media, online learning. So those will be all part of that. Flexibility and adaptability. We think the 21st century library needs to be adaptable for all of the various technologies that we will see emerging in the future. Space and security. We wanted to make sure that when we do design the building, it has a feeling of safety, of visibility, control points, entries where when we do use it after hours, they will be lockable in terms of the library itself. Technology, I mean, to me, that says it all. We wanted to make sure that we will be able to utilize blockchain, sustainability design, as well as understanding the needs of the user themselves. The workforce assistance, business incubator spaces, training areas, and computer centers, all those will be part of the library itself. Community engagement. To me, this is a big family portion that it is part of the community itself. So the library would be that hub for community activities. Support facilities, working with partnerships with WIC, CCSD, Family Services. So we'll be able to do all of those as well. Again, we talked about the core spaces, how we're going to integrate those core spaces into a workable program that KME Architects and its consultants will be able to utilize those to build the building itself. Now, this is the fun part here. This is where we talk about what the building should look like. And to me, it's important that we understand the theme of Afrocentric design through associating with the Afrocentric origin, Africa and its culture, and how we can make this space culturally connected and through forms and patterns. So we want to make sure we use symbolism, colors, designs for sculptures as part of our integration into the building. How do we use the, say for instance, the Kente cloth? It could be a part of the window design for the building or part of the exterior of the building. So we wanted to make sure that we incorporate all of those colors, forms for a cultural connection to the past, the present, and the future. I'm from the South, so I grew up in a small place called Bonita, just outside of Tallulah, and we always had a front porch. We always had a front porch that was inviting to visitors. It showed that people were concerned about their neighbors. They would always congregate to talk about, you know, the events of the day. And so we want to make sure that this project have what we consider a front porch. The similar front porch could mean that it is providing a gathering place, a place for conversation. So we want to make sure that's part of what we do in terms of design. I had an opportunity to travel to Dublin, South Africa. The capture site where Mandela was captured has a museum. And so one of the concepts that we want to do is look at how can we provide some type of sculptures that would make the past come to the present in terms of design. So we're looking at incorporating sculptures, textures, forms, patterns inside the library itself. With that said, I'll turn it over to Emmanuel to talk a little bit more about the maker spaces.
Thank you, Mel. So I'm going to talk a little bit about some of what we're calling the big ideas. Let's see. The big ideas for this space and some of the potential for the new spaces, new experiences, and new opportunities. So what's shown on this board here are some of the elements that John and Mel have both talked about, and some of the things that we think are really exciting and unique can be unique to this building. And what it is engaging some of these activities that we all kind of do on a day-to-day basis, you know, kids and adults alike, video games, radio, music, movies, and internet, and things of that nature, and providing spaces where people can come and use these or do these activities recreationally, but still be exposed to how these elements are created, right? So by capturing kids and young adults alike to play some video games and incorporating opportunities for them to learn a little bit more about how the video games are made, right? So that as they're playing the games, there's maybe somebody next to them that's starting to create the digital design for those games or the coding for those games and the overall development of the content, so that they're exposed to that and they're working together and collaboratively with everybody in the community. And seeing that there's not just the element of playing or utilizing these elements, TV, radio, music, and things of that nature, and providing these spaces and the equipment and the software to then create those themselves. The audio maker spaces, you know, you can go in there and be used to listen to music, but then we could take it a step further and start encouraging kids to creating their own music, singing, being able to record their own voices or producing their own music and mixing, things of that nature. or in the podcast studio where you can start to create your own podcast and then put that out as content so other people can find it and listen to that as well. The video maker spaces, providing equipment and spaces to enable creative education, right? Not only just watching the videos and movies that are being made, but using the green screen recording technology to be able to be creative and develop your own video creation, production, and editing. Many of these things go well beyond, typical home movies, right? And taking it to the next step and starting to create an interest in how these things are made. And, taking that even a step further in some of the other, what we're calling the tech lab and maker spaces, providing opportunities for learning through experimental exploration and creativity. So by having these spaces and creating collaborative spaces where people can come in and work with different types of medium. The image here to the upper right hand, shows what would be a science lab, if you will, but this can be broken up into areas where you would have maybe robotics, 3D printing, all in one lab, and having a collaborative space in the middle where somebody who is maybe working in a sculpting medium can engage somebody who's working in a 3D printing medium, and they come together to see how they can make those pieces, and one's helping the other learn, and it creates this growth for knowledge and technology. The idea is to create the spaces that will help facilitate creativity and collaboration, learning a variety of subjects, not just one, and seeing how what it is that you're learning or you're interested in can be relayed to the next technology or the next medium. Flexible space is incredibly important for this library. The image to the upper left-hand corner shows what would be just a flexible maker space, right? And this could be used for just about anything, creating a space with furniture that would be mobile on casters on wheels, so it could be set up for a crafts learning center one day and a cooking demonstration the next. And more importantly, creating the flexibility in these spaces for the technology that we're not yet aware of, right? What's going to happen in 5 years from now when we want to introduce a new learning method or a new technology? The space can be reconfigured very easily to be able to adapt to that and stay state of the art, if you will, to help facilitate learning and growth. Some of the other things that were talked about were some of the workforce incubator spaces, and some of the images on the lower right hand and the lower center there show areas where we can provide spaces for small businesses to collaborate, to have meeting spaces, to provide the technology that they would use for digital meetings, for presentations, and even pitching some of the ideas that they have, and providing equipment, computers, workspaces, printers, and even rentable temporary offices. If somebody, wants to use an office for a week or a month, they have the space that they could use to set up meetings and invite people in to see what it is that they've been working on. And Mel touched earlier on some of the distances from some of the urban chamber and some of those areas some of those elements that could help grow some of these homegrown workspaces, if you will. The library needs to be a place that provides services and sparks people's interest in providing new learning experiences and opportunity for growth. And one of the main things that we're trying to implement into this building and this space is education, and just making sure that all we're doing and all that we're putting into this building is going to help educate the growth for education and further provide people that opportunity to grow. So with that, I'll just touch real quickly again on some of the spaces, the maker spaces, and some of the other opportunities that we have for this library. As John mentioned, we have some activity boards out in the library or out in the lobby, and we'd love for you to take some time to take a look at those and give us some of your feedback on some of the elements that you feel are more important to you. And we're going to definitely utilize that as we start developing the program and the design for the library itself. We really would appreciate your feedback. And with that, I'll give it over to Shondell to close us out.
All right, Cito. So that means that I'm going to be the sergeant at arms on this thing, huh? Thank you to everybody who presented today. Wasn't that a wealth of information? You can give them a round of applause, right? There's some things that are key to this, and I want people to start lining up if you have a question. There are some microphones up front. Here's the rule: 2 minutes. And I'm going to time you. I got a new iPhone. I'm going to time you. And the reason is because we want everybody's input. We don't want to make it to where many people cannot get that input. Also, we do invite and welcome every single one of you to please use those activity boards, because your input is valuable to us, and we really want you to utilize that. So state your name, and we'll go ahead and make sure that you get your question in. And if you want to direct it to anyone here specifically, but also please we want to make sure that this is effective for us to get input about the library. So if there's like a city council deal, councilman's here, but try to keep it focused on what we're trying to accomplish today. Thank you very much. Who's up first? Ah, look at there, the senator.
Hi,
We're
so
starting off.
Senator Dina Neal. So I don't know if you guys can go back to the teen space or the young children's adult space, because I'm not really clear. So I had 2 points. I didn't see books in the teen space. One of the things that, you know, my children growing up here was a popular thing, was going into the children's library, being able to check out, at that time, it was cassettes on language, but also being able to read actual books. Like when we look at the literacy in this area, it's still well below 20%. And so I don't want us to, in our creative movement, not forget the actual traditional, which is pick up a book and read it. The second thing is in the, for the theater, it's what, 1 seat more than this existing one. So this one has 299, correct? And that one has 300. And so the biggest conversation that's been going on in the community is, number one, what happens with this space, right? We've had the spelling bee, we've had a series of other things here where we've never been able to meet that actual need because we outgrew it. We outgrew 299 seats. So if you're gonna have 300, we're gonna outgrow that. So why 1 seat extra for the theater? That's my 2 points.
So I'll answer both. One, if you take a look at the teen center that we built here, if you actually go inside there, there's actually books. So we're actually including books inside of, so these are just concepts, right? This is not actually what's going to happen. They're only concepts. But again, if you go to the teen center that we built here, we actually created a teen area here. We put some gaming in there, but we also made sure that we put books in there as well. We're also working on another one in West Charleston library as well with the same idea. So we're moving the youth in with games and other things, but also having books included inside of that space as well. So we're not forgetting books at all. And again, this presentation is only kind of concepts, not actually potentially how it's going to look. So that's my answer about the books. So we're not forgetting books. My answer about the theater, as John pointed out, is that what we would have in the new library would not be a theater. That's actually an events center. The event center will have the capability to seat 300, but it will also be able to break it down into different rooms. This theater, as far as I know, will still be here, but the new library would not have a theater. It'll have an events center, which is that's why we specifically said it's going to be concept. This is what it will be. That will be multi-purpose for not just performances, but it will be able to be used for wedding receptions. It'll be able to be used for, like we did for the Vegas Strongest Academy. Actually, the pictures that we used in this presentation are actually the images from the East Las Vegas Event Center. And we've used it in multiple ways. So I hope that I was able to answer your questions.
Yeah, you did, because I didn't know what the status of this theater was going to be, and that was an open question.
I think the councilman gonna answer.
I'll be more than happy to talk about that. And good questions. I'm a book reader myself, Senator. I don't read, haven't read a digital book, so I'm a pick up a book and read it. And then when I finish it, I usually donate it to the West Las Vegas Library. So I'm a big fan of that. We haven't decided yet what we're going to do with this facility. I can tell you that, as I mentioned before, the city owns the land, the library owns the building. The city would need to purchase the building from the library, which the city has made a commitment to do once we move forward. if we move forward with the library. So that's a huge commitment as well. I walked this facility today with our team, our city manager, our chief of community services and others, and we walked the entire facility. We are in the process, and I've asked our team to create what I'm calling the Doolittle complex master plan, right? So we need to look at everything we have going on here, and we're doing an evaluation as we speak, potentially expansion of the West Las Vegas Art Center, which they're already at capacity there. If the city once the city takes over this facility, then they'll have the ability to program this facility, and the Art Center will be able to utilize it versus going through the library district and seeing what's available, whatever. That's potentially the case. I can't see us rebuilding another theater. I mean, this is a very nice theater. I think it serves its purpose. The AV's in, everything's here. So I would envision it being incorporated into wherever we're doing moving forward, but we haven't made a final decision on what would take place with the building yet once the city takes it over. But believe me, once we have some thoughts, we'll be right back here talking to you about what potentially could come here.
All right, next.
Okay, my name is Diana Sappho Cooks, and you opened this up. Sir, Councilman, I was here really specifically for the theater, what was going to happen. I understand the city is going to buy it. I'm directing 2 shows within there's one of my actors right there, April 9th and 10th, August 29th and 30th. And this allows us, to use the theater. So I thought my question was answered, but what you are saying is that we will come back later and discuss what is going to actually happen with
Sure.
this building?
Yeah, without a doubt. And, we don't do anything behind closed doors. We've come out with everything that we've done, hence we're here today. And we will have a conversation. I can tell you this, that I know it's very important to the community. It's very important to me. And if we need a space to have our performing arts. So we have an amazing art center next door. If you've never seen any of their performances, I urge you to go check them out. They perform here as well as the Smith Center. And so, we need that in our community. And so we're going to figure that out. Yeah, I applaud you for taking the lead on your events that you're having.
Thank you. And for KME Architects, I want to say that they are absolutely great, and welcome aboard to the new Black Library.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Hello.
There it is. Okay, how you guys doing? I'm Brett Silver. I'm actually with the Talking Book Library. First of all, you guys have some great plans. I was just listening to what you were talking about and how you're going to implement all this. And I guess what I wanted to say is I hope that you guys will work closely with us as we want to work closely with you. That your staff is familiar with us as a possible resource to your patrons that aren't able to read standard print, things of that nature. And also too, they've just relaxed the certification qualifications for people with dyslexia to use our service. So somebody who has dyslexia or any kind of reading disability, it used to be they had to be certified by a medical doctor. Now, it can be anyone, a librarian, a teacher for the disabled, social worker, anyone like that. So we just want to make sure that you all are informed about us. I've heard stories of patrons going into certain libraries and the staff is not familiar with our program and they don't know where to send these people. So it's good that that everybody's informed and they can say, oh, well, there's the Talking Book Library if you have some type of disability where you can't read standard print. So we just want to make sure that we're all working together, and that's kind of my main reason for being here tonight. So
Thank you.
Hello, just a question. Is it a supposed model group that a library that the adult books or the sample that to the Rolling Stone, everything? Is there the question that the technology for all age, computer and the computer-like computer brain at the great access technology for age of the 51? But there's no way to talk to the greater library. Is it all the books, all the CD, and all the books live, just all the segment, the segment of library that the cloth Dick Clark County Library Association. And as far as the property, it's a little thing. We don't understand that the library, the court, a court that turned the, wait a minute, just court to the restroom, right? And the court, even the newspaper, in the West Charleston area, in the, right to this corner, right to the church, right into the bridge of Las Vegas. But when I turned the book, it started to read everything from children's books, music books, DD books, movie CDs, everything. All this, plus the computer age in the computer library of the Clark, the Las Vegas Clark County Library. It's a district to the life of the we saw today. We know, but library is the only one that started by the Greater Las Vegas area. And assume the later is about the capital, only one that's a threat. Perhaps the only thing that has the greater technology, but to turn the big library of the library of Las Vegas area.
Thank you, sir.
So that they weekend, but let me know, remind you, perhaps there are more ways to the library, associate library, a family and friends together.
Thank you,
But
sir.
most of all,
Sir, we,
Give
thank
us
you.
the life, the love, ever cherish for all of us.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, my name is Terrence Hazel, and I've developed something called a habilitation algorithm. You know, you've all said some great things. I especially salute the brother in the library. I just came from the library. I wish you guys would get some faster internet so I could do my virtual interviews there. But I want to salute you. I go there every day, literally for hours. But back to habilitation formula. I would like to begin to include those who are coming from the incarceration or have had incarceration or have had difficulties with criminal justice in the development of the library, of development of the reconstruction of Marble Manor and all our projects, because including our people who have had conflict in those projects gives them motivation to change. We can't rehabilitate them because many of our people have never had crime and drug-free lives. So you're habilitating them. And my algorithm incorporates learning as the central concept, because the library, when I get up in the morning, I go straight to the library. Why? Not only is there books, the internet, there's computers. You don't have to buy anything. Everything's there for you to start your day out. And from there, I branch out and do interviews. I contact people. I've been trying to reach Councilman Career through your computers, and I got him now. But anyway, I just want to let you know that the library is a hub of technology. And if we use it properly, as you mentioned, the platform, it can be a platform not only for all the things that you guys have talked about, but I would like to not let us forget those who have been incarcerated, who have had difficulties with the criminal justice system, because coming out of the system, they're going to need resources. And it's not just about going to get a job. You know, getting that job may require you doing some studying. You might have
Thank you,
to,
sir.
right?
Appreciate you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Good evening. Good evening. My name is Marlon Rice. Some know me as DJ Thump. And first of all, thank you guys so much for coming. Queen, thank you for that lesson that I definitely learned about my community. I'm concerned. I was listening about the programs for the community. Are these going to be affordable programs? Do they have to pay for these programs? And part two of my question is, and forgive my ignorance, what is the difference in now the library? It seems like it's turning into a rec center. Thank you. I'm not the only one who thought that. So my question is, what would be the difference between a library and a rec center? Because it seems like that we're taking, I heard the cliche that in order to get something, we got to take something. So are we taking the library and we're just adding another rec center for the community? That's going to give all types of programs, whether it's DJ classes, whether it's computer literacy, whether it's social media, et cetera, et cetera. Are they going to be free and open to our community for them to come and learn these things? And if so, what would be the affordable price for those? That's my question. Thank you.
I'll answer that question. I would say that the programs that the library offer currently, we'll just say currently, and moving forward, will continue to be free to the community. That's what the library is. I don't consider the library a rec center. What I consider the library to be is a resource for you to learn. For example, at East Las Vegas, we have a DJ studio. And we actually had a program where we helped individuals in that community actually learn how to use that equipment that actually then helped them to go get jobs on the Strip, for example. So that's one example, and that was free of charge to the community. So the programs and services, that's only one thing that we offer. The business community, the incubation hub, for example. Again, I've been in libraries for a long time, most of my life. When I came here, from one of the things that I brought here from Florida was the business incubator idea to provide folks like yourself, if you want to go start a business and you don't have an office, that you could come use the library for free to do that. Use our broadband access. As you probably know, during COVID, it really was highlighted that in our communities that we don't have internet access. That's what the library comes in and be a part of. So again, I don't consider that to be a rec center. I consider that to be a resource.
Okay. And I'm sorry, and please forgive me, I didn't mean to sound as though, that was a put down a rec center, but to me, it just seems like there's different laws and different rules. And forgive me again for being ignorant when it comes to having a rec center and having a library. I guess I'm still thinking of a library as he said, you walk in, you see all these books and it's a hush, hush, shh. But I'm still kind of battling on the difference between why should I go there when I can go to Pearson Center or Cambridge or something like that.
Well, it is a little bit different. And I'll tell you, the incubator piece is very important because, as you know, we've been operating an incubator for 12 years over on Stella Lake, and that incubator has been full. So you guys understand, we have been full for 12 years. So the expansion of the incubator, when they met with the Urban Chamber, gives us an opportunity to create more businesses and give space for our businesses to operate, which I hope everybody understands that we are always kind of low on the totem pole when it comes to businesses. And I can tell you that the services that we can get from the SBDC and the SBA and SCORE are free services. So we know that for a fact.
And that would open doors for qualified trainers, right?
And I'd like to invite you to UNLV's library just to see what a library is.
I've been there. It's
Oh,
beautiful.
Okay, but do you see what's going on in the library?
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
Yes, ma'am.
Can I
Thank
say
you.
something really quick from a business perspective? Manuel and I, we have satellite offices in Atlanta and Fort Worth, but they're Regis offices and we have to pay for that. But just think of a space that you can rent out, that you can have your business, work there in terms of getting, meeting the client, printing and all of those things. So I think the Library of the 21st Century needs to show that, because you would have to go to Regis, maybe down on 4th Street or wherever they're located, to actually have a space that you can bring a client.
Well, thank you.
I know the
I'm
councilman
very
wants to
excited
say
about it.
something. I'll add one other thing. The library, just again, I'm a librarian, first of all, but I'll also say that the library is the equalizer. So we provide for folks who have, folks who don't. You want to learn how to do 3D printing, that you can build houses now with 3D printing. We want to put in a 3D printing certification course, teaching people how to use those resources. Again, preparing our community for things that we're already behind in. That's the library of the 21st century. I'm not trying to take over for CCSD. What I'm trying to do is support CCSD and the resources UNLV, CSN, Nevada State College, et cetera.
Thank you.
I'm very excited, thank you, to see all of you here, born and raised, Carson City, Nevada. My name is Tiffany Meza Heller. I grew up in libraries. I have raised my children in the libraries here in Southern Nevada, all of them all over the valley. So I'm very excited for the opportunity for West Las Vegas to get their library. I'm very interested with the director of the library and KME. I think it's a great opportunity to make a very great international global outreach to our community in Las Vegas with those that come from the continent. How exciting to see the design is almost like Wakanda or this movie that the whole world went crazy about. My question is, have we made effort? Can I be of assistance to reach out to our international Africans that are here now? Can we use this moment as a platform to join our forces collectively, as all the other cultures are always doing?
From an architectural perspective, I think that's an excellent idea. It's just a matter of working with the community to make that happen. So outside are the boards. And so if any of the community have some suggestions on how we can do that, we'll definitely look at entertaining that.
I appreciate that. And I would love to make contact with both you and Sir so we can get conversations with some of the leaders in the African community. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Hey, somebody sent me a text while I'm sitting here, and I think it's important to understand, the library is going to be the hub and really the heart when it's open of the West Las Vegas. And, it's a gateway from MLK. I think that's a very good sentiment that someone sent me a text about. And, we're in the midst of working with the RTC right now and convening about connectivity of the historic West Side and into downtown right now. And we have meetings scheduled to talk about that. And so this will create that connectivity. Imagine going from the library down to the Workforce Development Center, down to the West Las Vegas School, to the Jackson Avenue, to our community farming facility, to our health and wellness center, to our renewed and revitalized urban core of housing at Marble Manor, to downtown where resource and services are to City Hall. And all this ties in together. Just want to add that.
Good evening. I'm Mike Amy, born and raised here in Vegas, the historical West Side, actually, 507 Alexander, right here. So I'm very pleased with this. I grew up in the historical West Side and then moved right across Martin Luther King into Bonanza Village. And I moved around town, and I'm very pleased to say that I'm back at the roots in this area. And I understand, I definitely went to the D Street Library. I started a chess club there. Then it grew to here. So I understand expansion. The historical West Side has grown, right? It is no longer bordered by Martin Luther King, in my opinion. So we need to expand with it. And one of the things I heard that really made me pleased that you're definitely doing your due diligence is the fact that we need pedestrians to get across the streets safely. Got to close that gap, right? Bridges over to there, which I really commend you guys for thinking that out. One thing I would say I am concerned about is a lot of the businesses taking advantage, and I am quite sure we're going to manage that some kind of way, that they don't see a free opportunity for office, okay? It's not an office, it's a workspace temporarily. So I commend you guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Amy. Good evening. Lawrence Weekly is my name. Want to begin by just saying that this facility that we're sitting in right now, and beautiful Clay T. White, who's sitting on stage with you all, Councilman, she can tell you, and you were around, you knew that the battles that went on to build this facility that we're sitting in. And Diana Cooks, who stood up earlier, talked about some performances that she have. My question to you all is this: And before I say that, there are so many accolades on this stage that could be given out. First of all, Cammie, I'm so excited to see you guys here and you're doing some great work. Mr. Watson, thank you so very much. Welcome to Las Vegas. Board member Keith Rogers, thank you. I don't know if a lot of folks in our community know you, but what you do out at UNLV for our kids, it is just a blessing. And Vegas, I want y'all to know this man here makes such a difference for so many of our kids who have never been exposed to higher education. This man here really deserves a big round of applause from our community, please. Thank you. And Shondell Newsom, your wife is in the audience, so don't try to cut me off, all right? Councilman, I just want to ask you this question, sir, only because when we go back to the East Las Vegas Library, which has been referenced a lot here tonight, it goes back to former Mayor Pro Tem Gary Reese. But Bob Coffin, who bought it across the finish line, what he did was he took it to the residents and he asked them what did they want. And that's how that vision came about, because it was community driven. For us, and I love the work that you're doing, but I'll say this to you respectfully, we don't want a cookie cutter. We don't want a cookie cutter. We want to have that 106 flavor. We want you to give us what we want, and you about that life, because that's what your parents were about. And what you and your brother are doing, I love you, man. You bringing Shaq to the neighborhood, and you're using those resources to make our kids believe. This theater here, it was the Deborah Jacksons and the Marzette Lewises and all of them who fought that we went from 120 plus seats to 299, and we outgrew it in 30 days. And so we need for us to have something, if it takes, because earlier in the presentation, I was sitting on that side of the room. Early in the presentation, I think architect Mel Green said, well, if we build this, we have to take away something. I think we are interested in taking away something to give us something that we want. And we want a theater that our kids could go and perform in. We're sad that what they built over there at the Art Center next door, we're sad that a lot of that's been taken and now it's over at the Charleston Heights Library. And we need that back over here. And you're our guy that can make that happen. You got the energy. We love your passion. We know that we're in this neighborhood where we're looking for more affordable housing. We're looking for some more housing development. You got key players around you that's helping you bring that vision to fruition. Please keep having these meetings. Please keep inviting us, but give us what we want, man. We want a bigger theater so that our kids don't have to go and beg Myron Martin to perform at the over there at the Smith Center. We can stay right here in our neighborhood, right here on MLK. Please make that happen for us, future mayor. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Weekend.
You know, I think it's vitally important that we do give it the West Side flavor, right? Whatever that may be. And, you know, the talk in my office, as I said, is that we're doing a whole master plan of what the Doolittle complex is all about. I had some great conversations today, and there's no doubt about it that the art center, current art center now that we have, West Las Vegas Art Center, is at capacity. And potentially there's a lot that could be done here. And so that is on top of mind of everybody in my office as well as everybody in the city.
All right, how many people we have? How many people left to speak? 2 more? Okay.
Looks like 2
All
more.
right, we'll cut that then, because we got boards outside now, because we got to, we got to get out of it on time. You know, it's like a church funeral. We're gonna get out on time. So you're up, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay. Hi, my name is Kamisha Monica, Las Vegas Tribune. I just want to say, by definition, a library, a building or room containing collection of books, periodicals, and sometimes films and recorded music for people to read, borrow, or refer to. A collection of books and periodicals held in a library. A room in a private house where books are kept. A series of books, recordings issued by the same company and similar in appearance. Now, I only brought that definition up because I could understand the confusion when you're talking about building this new library. I think what I heard more today was about the programming and the things you want to put in there. I do understand in terms of infrastructure that maybe there is a new library that needs to be built for newer technology and things like that to be put in. But I also say you can't lose the aspect of the library because much wasn't said about books today. Second, the concept cultural connections. This may not be popular in the room. However, for Black Americans living in America, I think it's time for us to start developing our culture ourselves. Yes, I understand that our ancestors are from Africa, but if in the concepts, the cultural connections, what about us? And putting something in the library that represents, I don't want to say like new America or the new Black American, but we have a culture here too, and it's not emphasized enough. I love Black Americans. Everybody has different things about their cultures and things like that that people don't agree with or don't like, but we've come through so much, and there is a value that maybe we want to see from what we've created, from what we had in this country alone. So if you can consider that, I'd appreciate it. But thank you for coming to the community to try to move us forward.
Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome.
And just so everybody knows, that's what those boards are out there for you guys to say exactly what she just said. Yes, I totally agree, and Mel has touched on it. This is what this meeting is about, actually, is for you guys to give us the feedback so we could take it back to the library district and give you what you want.
Yeah, real briefly, and one of the things that we stated is that we're going to take those forms and we're going to make it more modern in terms of design. So I totally agree with you 100%. We're going to take that past, present, and future.
Hello, my name is Samuel Wright, and I'd like to first of all thank the councilman for saying that this building and the building next door will be kept. I think that's important to everybody here that's been here.
I just want to be clear. I said that we haven't decided what's going to go on with the entire campus. I've never said that. I can't see this leaving, but I don't want you to walk away saying that I made a statement that nothing is going to, go away. I will say this is that if anything happens, we'll be back out to the community to talk about it. I just want to make it clear. I do see this thing, and I hope it does, and I don't see why it wouldn't, but we are master planning the entire complex. I don't want you to walk away deceived or.
That's fine, sir. I
misinformed.
understand a good
Yeah.
master plan, and that's necessary to move forward into the future. And I know there'll be elements within that master plan that will preserve the things that are important to this community that have been important for many, many years. So I know that you're going to do that.
I will say this, whatever happens will be better if anything moves forward.
Fantastic.
We are not going backwards
Absolutely.
on
That's wonderful.
on anything that we're doing.
And in order to go forward, I think one of the things that's needed, not only here, but in the new library, is what I call a teen entrepreneurial space. Because from the clothes that we wear, the music that we listen to, the forward movement of so much of what's going on in America has come from young people, and especially young Black people. And there needs to be somewhere where the two concepts can come together so that we have, and thank you, Shondell, for shaking your head. There has to be a place where young people can learn how to become entrepreneurs, where their ideas and thoughts can be developed, and the two can come together to help us move forward. Because I think all of us deep in our hearts realize that this community, this whole Southern Nevada is changing. It will not only be a place where gaming is prominent, but that we have to move forward with new businesses and new ideas into the future. And the library is a great place for young people to come together to do that, especially in this community, but throughout our whole library district. So I'm encouraging you to include a space where you and Shondell and our architects come together in one of those flexible spaces to create something where young people can come together, whether high school students, college students, or even elementary school students can come with their ideas and say, okay, let's build a business. We can do it here.
Thank you, Mr. Wright. Thank you very much. Mr. Wright, give him a round of applause. Well, I hired his daughter. She was my first employee 16 years ago, Nicole, from Howard University, right? Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Hi, Miss Joyce.
Good evening. My name is Joyful Joyce Thomas. And yes, I was one of the ones who was fighting for this building. Yes, I was 8 months on the architect team. Yes, but just think about this. And I'm going to give this to you, our future mayor, to make this a cultural center that could be a masterpiece for the world to see. Now, we'll have people coming from everywhere if we have this, maintain this as our cultural center in West Las Vegas, I'm 100% on the library. You know, I'm thinking you're probably gonna have to do 3 floors, maybe not 2. I know you're thinking 2 is good, but I think 3, especially if you want that event center that you're gonna have. So you may have to rethink that. But a culture center, to make this the hub of a cultural center that people will come from and say, wow, look what they have in West Las Vegas. They have a theater, they have, they have an art center, they have all these spaces right here. So I want you to think about, when you have to go back and we have to negotiate, what this piece will look like. Make it look like what your father and you have fought for, to make this an international cultural center. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Joyce. And then I do want to touch on the entrepreneurial teenager thing, because what is going to happen, from the urban chamber standpoint, Ken and I have already talked about it in the future, the chair-elect and all the people who are taking over, because they're going to the next generation. We did talk, that's one of the first things we talked to Mr. Watson about, because I'm a product of that. I was mentored by a deacon in my church in business at 13 years old. So that's near and dear to my heart. That's why you saw me shaking my head vigorously, because I believe in that.
Hello, my name is Tashika Lawson. I would like to say is it Dr. Watson? Mr. Watson?
Mr. Watson.
Mr. Watson, well, congratulations on 1 year leading the library district. I'm not sure if everybody knows, he just had his year anniversary for being in our town and leading our library district. So he's done quite a bit by bringing this to us in that short amount of time. I will tell you, as a book nerd and a comic book nerd, libraries are my ish. They're a place that I love. They're a place that most kids don't get the exposure that they deserve in. That being said, I want to make sure that we are actually listening to the community in which it's going to go in. As we know, this is not just a place that people come in this community. This is a cultural corridor. We have a lot of services that people from all over town and people who are coming to our town for the first time come to this complex for. So if we're going to put this, if this is something that the community may lose, not for the library, but other things in the campus, we would like to be able to talk about the first right of refusal for it to go up to the community to raise funds to purchase it before it may go outside of the community. Another thing I would like to be able to address when it comes to the actual programming, some of the things that I'm seeing up on this board are over at Nevada Partners, and they're currently being underutilized. So like we said at the last meeting, we would like to make sure that these programs get started before anything gets out of the community. Like, we have incubation space over at Nevada Partners. We have hydroponics, we have solar programming, we have the only virtual reality computer in this state over at Nevada Partners. So if we have all of that stuff that's at our fingertips already in this neighborhood, it's important for us to be able to use those resources. But it's also important for us to be able to bring projects like this before the board that is actually going to be able to move all obstacles out of our way, which is the SNCC board. This is the actual place where we're supposed to weed and seed. It is actually in the Nevada Revised Statutes. That is the board that is supposed to drive all development in this area. So as the library district, it's important for us to be able to, we had a meeting last week for the SNCC board. Why weren't you guys presenting there? That's important for us as a community, because that's a board where all of the people in high places with our faces are actually going to be. And we want to be able to see these presentations in a place with all of the teeth that we need to get the work done.
Thank you.
That's all.
Thank you. Appreciate you. All right.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm Katie Duncan, and I just wanted to thank you so much for your heart and care for the historic West Side. I also want to welcome the Black community into the Black neighborhood. This is the historic West Side. And there are a lot of agencies planning for the historic West Side because the government has put a target on our back as being an underserved, disadvantaged community. So we've got the Clark County School District with dismal statistics about the reading levels of our students. We've got the city of Las Vegas with Councilman Creer getting ready to build a learning center over at the West Las Vegas, at the West Side School. Like Tashika said, we got Nevada Partners that's planning things. We got the North Las Vegas Library, we've got this library. We've got a lot of different jurisdictions planning for the West Side. So what we're asking for is a central planning exercise. We're asking all of us to stop for just a moment and put ourselves through a virtual community planning exercise where we put all of these wonderful designs that KME's brought to us. Let's put them in a digital setting. We've got the technology now that we can put all of this activities and projects that have been proposed by the SNCC board. There's $70 million worth of projects going through SNCC right now, 77 million coming through the LVGEA. We've got to put all these projects on one platform and let the children look at what's being planned for their future and give them an opportunity to engage. Because I'm over 66. Nothing we're planning today is for me. I would like to see some young people who are going to live with what we're building on the up here. So I know Mel Green has a plan to engage the young people. I'm excited to hear more about it. And I just want to also say to Councilman Creer that as we begin to build these projects, we also really need to look at transportation. That's one of the areas where we've been sorely boxed in by the I-15 and Interstate 95 freeway systems. You know, we had the F Street shut off and reopened. We've never mitigated that closure on the F Street. So we need to look at a whole of community approach and also the Internet of Things. So I'm excited that we're moving forward. I just want us to move forward collaboratively because we are across several jurisdictions. If we can get North Las Vegas and Las Vegas in the same room with the county and the school district and the library board, I think we can move historic West Side further along. And let's not forget the housing authority. And I thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Duncan. So with that, you know, we're free to look at the different boards. I don't know if the executive director or Mel or anybody have anything else, but I just want to point out these three things that I got from today: education, economic, and social well-being. And one of the things that's real important is that's what the focus is. That's what I got, the three things from the new library. And so I'm just really pleased to be a part of this effort to do the outreach. And I want you guys to please give all of that information that you passionately have expressed, and please put it on those boards, fill out that questionnaire, and definitely everything will be looked at and talked about. So do you have any closing remarks, Mr. Watson?
No, I'll say that, you know, we're continuing to listen. I appreciate all the comments, and, you know, I was just asking Trustee Rogers about the SNCC board. So the reason we weren't there because we weren't invited to be there. So if we're invited, if you invite me, I will be there. What I will also say is that the library district is, what we've been doing here in the community is supporting, North Las Vegas is a separate library district, but we actually have been sharing our resources with them, as well as the rest of the county as well. And one of the things that was mentioned was about the definition of the library. And what I just want, you to take away, as well as what was already said, is that the library overall is about access, discovery, and delivery of information and resources. So that's digitally, that's physically, that's education, preparedness, workforce development, and all the things that we talked about here. So I just wanted to say that as well. And the other thing to mention, recently, the Las Vegas Clark County Library District was recognized as the American Library Association Library of the Future for 2022. Now, interestingly enough, we're talking about what we need to be doing in this community because we're doing other things in other communities. We have, for example, in the West Charleston Library, we're concepting out what Mr. Wright actually talked about with the youth and workforce connections along with CSN. So we're actually doing a lot of this work now in preparation for the new library location. So I'll end with that and say thank you. I look forward to seeing your comments on the boards outside.
And then I would like to just maybe make one quick comment about services that are available in North Las Vegas, this community through different providers. Our goal and philosophy is not to duplicate or replicate existing resources that are available. It is here to complement and make those resources more accessible in other locations where transportation might be a barrier to access. And so that's one of the things that we are also looking at as we're talking about these concepts of possible programming. Is not necessarily that the library needs to be the place where that happens all the time, is that we want to make sure to be able to refer and direct and educate all of our constituents at all of our libraries to where these resources can be best accessed.
Everybody, we appreciate. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll get to see you look for it.
Well, I'll just ask.